a lot of media attention and focus by feminist groups around the world has been on the Russian punk band Pussy Riot, which is a musical arm of the Russian anarchist group Voyna, which means war. And it's really disturbing that no research seems to really actually have been done into this group, because the fact that they're being portrayed as a feminist band is laughable, and the some of the stuff that they've engaged in is just so reprehensible and disgusting that it's like, and I'm not even getting into blaming the women for this, because when I get into this video and talk about some of the things that have been done, I don't think that this stuff is coming from the female imagination. I just want to make that clear. We all know that the media doesn't really pay attention to work that feminists do. So when something is being promoted in the media as feminist, it's important to really take a critical eye to it, because you can pretty much assume that it's going to be something that men do not find threatening, because men control the media. Rich men. Unless, so you can just assume that it's going to be pseudo-empowerment, just, through being sexually available to men 24/7, that they call feminism. So the 3 women in the band have been sentenced to 3 years of hard labor for hooliganism, which I just find hilarious, hooliganism. And the petitions have been going around. Celebrities have been supporting them. So I think it was really interesting how this just kind of blew up. Initially, I was skeptical, and I had some reasons for this. These were the reasons why I was like, why is there a focus on Pussy Riot? What could possibly be going on in the background? And this is what my mind came to. Obviously, one, the Western media has the job of securing American hegemony. And Vladimir Putin, as a leader in Russia, does not support American hegemony and always acts in the interests of Russia. And I also don't support the anti-Putin crowd in Russia. I think it comes from a really reactionary kind of cast. And I'm not saying this because I don't think there's human abuse or human rights abuses in Russia, or that there isn't a problem with freedom of speech. But quite frankly, when people need food and electricity, basic life stuff is more pivotal, and the criminals and oligarchs in Russia really have made life very difficult for the average Russian, and I appreciate the work that Putin's done to go after them. So secondly, the Western media, these are back to my theories about why there was a focus on Pussy Riot in the media so strongly. The Western media has the job of portraying the U.S. as the most free nation ever. So when there's abuses of power that happen around the world, those are going to be reported on, because, it makes America look really, free, even though the same abuses of power happen here. I mean, we have political prisoners all over the U.S., people who are deliberately targeted for their political activism and framed, in a lot of cases, for crimes they did not commit. And then 3, another reason I was skeptical is, the name Pussy Riot itself is just very porno-esque, and it was just immediately revulsion that I get from that. And so I had the suspicion, well, this band must be doing something that men don't find threatening for them to be this popular amongst all these manarchists and leftist media and regular media even. So there's some interesting things upon digging up, and I'm going to include a link in the low bar to an article by the RadFem Hub on Pussy Riot, and it goes into detail about a lot of the stuff they did. I'm also going to include a link to actually one of their actions, which I will put trigger warning. It is pornographic, and it is kind of disturbing, so just be warned. The members of Pussy Riot, by the way, which is not an all-female group as it's been presented, if you look at videos of the band or pictures of the band, it's clear that there are several men in drag performing in this band. They're members of the anarchist group Vojna, which means war in Russian. And as any woman who's spent any time in the anarchist community can tell you, this means that you're going to be dealing with a lot of manarchists. And manarchists are fucking sexist assholes, as you can see from any of the fucking manarchists on YouTube. The political stunts they've done have gotten them into trouble in the past. But the male members who were arrested and sentenced before were bailed out by the graffiti artist Banksy. So let's see if he comes through with the money for these women, huh? Let's go into some of these stunts that they've been part of with the female members. And let's just be clear, these are not feminist actions in any sense. One stunt was a public orgy where the anarchist women were anally penetrated by male members of Vojna whilst being surrounded by teddy bears. And this was supposed to be like a fuck you to, I forget the name of the guy, but his name means bear in Russian. So it was like, you know, supposed to be like, so yeah, anal, getting, you know, fucked up the ass, essentially, for feminism, publicly. I mean, orgies, yeah. Just real totes feminist. Too, another spectacle that they did to grab attention for their politics, quote unquote, was where they had members of Vojna and female members of Vojna and Pussy Riot. They were made to be nude publicly, and then they were covered in cockroaches. So that was supposed to be another attention-grabbing kind of thing. Again, I don't think that comes from the female imagination. Third public protest was done. I use the term protest, more of a spectacle, was done where members of Vojna and Pussy Riot actually threw live cats, like actual little kitties, into a restaurant/bar, you know, at these people. So that's, you know, animal abuse right there. Totes feminist. And then another action, which I'm going to include a link to an article about that, which will take you to see this if you really want to. I don't suggest watching it. Was where members of Vojna entered a grocery store and blacked out the CCTV, and then recorded a female member of Vojna who they lovingly dubbed vacuous cunt with inconceivably huge tits. They videotaped her masturbating with a raw chicken, like a full-bodied raw chicken, and then after that, shoving the whole raw chicken into her vagina, and then walking out of the store. Which they then said that they went on to eat. And in this video, like, there's a 4-year-old child. So all of these stunts, if you commit them in any country, you're gonna, you know, get put away because it's disturbing the peace, and also it's like really disturbing stuff. I mean, in the US, you don't fucking masturbate with raw chickens in front of 4-year-olds. I mean, people would freak out, right? But, you know, because this is just supposed to be an example of how, you know, how totalitarian the government is, Russia. And the sentencing is totalitarian, but, like, come on. So none of this sounds like the workings of a female imagination to me. It sounds more like the pornographic imagination of males who watch too much gonzo porn. And it's just all, like, men using the bodies of women to convey negative messages to one another. This is not feminist in any sense. And upon looking up any of the work they did, the only thing that I could find that was, like, quote-unquote feminist that they did was that they called Vladimir Putin's government patriarchal. Well, that's all governments. So I mean, that doesn't even, you don't even have to be a feminist to acknowledge that a government is patriarchal. You know, it's not really some hardcore feminist analysis. And as I said before, if you watch any video or look at any pictures of this band, it becomes clear that several members of the band are men in drag, not women. But it's very interesting that although there were men in drag in this fucking band, the women, or the people who are, you know, sentenced to 3 years for hooliganism, are women, you know. and they were arrested when they did they went into a church and did like a live concert and like a little ritual where they were like, you know, trying to be offensive against Putin again, and the church also perceived it as rather offensive because, you know, in many ways religion was suppressed under the Soviet Union and it's just coming back into full form for whatever reason, probably because life is so desperately horrible in Russia, but you know, yeah, that kind of shit. Yeah. So this kind of thing is the type of feminism that the Western media has no problem stomaching, and it's not fair that these women have had the kind of sentencing they've had, and they should be free to speak out against any problems they have with the government. So I do support like these women being freed. Who knows what we can really do in terms of this? I don't have a plan myself, but it's really important that this group not be touted as being feminist. These actions are not feminist and actually are very degrading to women as a class, and are clearly not the result of the female imagination. I just even with cultural differences and stuff, I can't see the, you know, how this could be even in any way derived from a female mind. And it's pretty obvious that there are males in this band who have gotten off scot-free. So it's really aggravating that yet again men, you know, come up with this shit, they participate, and then who gets the blame, who has to do the hard time? It's women, and these men are going to be able to still, you know, participate in their activism. It's really angering. So I'm going to wrap this up. I thought Twisty Faster from I Blame the Patriarchy, which isn't a website I really support very much because it's got some liberal tendencies, but she had this great quote that I'm going to leave you with to further analyze stuff like this in the future with things being touted as feminist in the media. If the liberal peen is keen, the result is going to demean.